The treasure you seek is not outside of you. It is the self waiting to be realized beneath layers of illusion, fear, and conditioning. You are not here to chase worth. You are here to remember it. There comes a moment in the inner journey when a person must stop begging for love, for validation, for recognition. That is the moment of awakening. The first glimpse that you were never meant to audition for a place in someone else's world. You are the world, you are the origin, not the echo. You are the prize. The gold lies in the depths, not in what is immediately visible or easily accessible. It is not found in the performances you give the world, nor in the masks you wear to be accepted. True worth is buried deep, often beneath pain, rejection, and the wounds of childhood, and like all things sacred, it is fiercely guarded, by your own shadows, by your unhealed grief, by the parts of yourself you've disowned. This is why many live their entire lives unaware of their own value, because they have never dared to go deep enough. The journey inward is not glamorous. It requires a kind of death, the death of illusions, the death of ego, the death of needing to be seen a certain way. You must be willing to descend, to be stripped of what is false, to enter the inner cave where your rejected selves wait in silence. What you have called your flaws, your shame, your brokenness, these are not signs of weakness. They are signposts, leading you back to the treasure, but most flee from them. They keep performing, keep pleasing, keep running. They build a life on shallow ground and wonder why it collapses under the weight of emptiness. Because until you face what lies beneath, you cannot claim the gold that has always been yours. The descent is sacred. It is not meant to destroy you, but to reveal you. For every fear you face, a layer of gold is uncovered. For every truth you allow yourself to feel, a piece of your worth is reclaimed. The gold is not something you earn. It is something you remember. It has always been within you, but buried by the lies you were taught to believe. Lies that said you were too much or not enough, or only worthy if you met certain conditions. But the soul does not trade in conditions. The soul is unconditional. It knows your worth even when you forget. It calls you down, deeper and deeper, into the underworld of your own being, not to punish you, but to free you, to return you to the self you abandoned in order to survive. And when you emerge from that descent, not perfect, but whole, you carry something no one can take from you, the knowing that your value is not dependent on being seen, understood, or validated. It simply is. You no longer perform, you no longer plead, you walk not to prove anything, but because you have touched the sacred ground of your own soul. You become sovereign, you become the gold. You were never meant to be perfect. Perfection is a mask crafted by the ego to please a world that never truly sees. It is a performance, a relentless striving, a constant fear of being exposed. And yet, the soul seeks not perfection, but wholeness, a return to the totality of who you are, light and shadow, beauty and blemish, strength and vulnerability. Perfection divides you. It teaches you to amputate parts of yourself, your rage, your sorrow, your insecurities, so that you can fit an ideal image. But every part you disown does not disappear. It waits in silence, growing bitter and resentful, until it erupts, demanding to be seen. The pursuit of perfection is a kind of violence against the self. You polish your image while your inner world withers. You shine for others while you abandon yourself. Wholeness, on the other hand, is the sacred art of integration. It is the deep and courageous work of turning toward what you have been taught to hide. To be whole means to carry all of yourself, even the pieces you once believed made you unlovable. It means to allow contradiction within, to be fierce and soft, wise and wounded, graceful and chaotic. It is to look into the mirror and no longer flinch. You do not need to be flawless to be worthy. You do not need to hide your scars to be seen. The cracks in you are not signs of failure. They are doorways to depth. What makes you whole is not the image you project, but the truth you embody. Wholeness is authenticity. It is the reclamation of your inner kingdom, the parts you exiled, the voices you silenced, the stories you tried to erase. And there is great power in this return. When you no longer strive to be perfect, you become free. You stop measuring your worth by external approval. You stop shrinking to fit expectations that were never yours to carry. You become rooted, grounded, unshakable, not because you've perfected yourself, but because you've embraced yourself. The journey is not about becoming something more. It is about becoming fully yourself. Not a curated version, but the real, raw, and radiant truth of your being. And in that wholeness, there is a magnetism no performance can mimic. You stop trying to be enough, because you know you already are. So shed the weight of perfection. Let go of the lie that your worth must be earned. Turn inward. Face yourself with compassion. Gather every part of you like sacred fragments, and piece them back together, not into something flawless, but into something true. That is where your power lies. That is what it means to be whole. There comes a moment in every inner journey when the seeker must stop running, not because the world has nothing to offer, but because the soul begins to remember its own power. When you do not know who you are, you chase. You chase love, attention, recognition, belonging. You chase symbols of worth, status, beauty, achievement, hoping they will soothe the ache of not feeling enough. But chasing is always rooted in lack. It says, something outside me will complete me, and in doing so it forgets the self entirely. To chase is to abandon your center. You become a mirror of others' desires, a shape shifter, trying to be what they want so you can feel wanted. But in this game, you always lose. Even when you catch what you've been chasing, it slips through your fingers because it was never truly yours. You didn't choose it from your soul. You grasped for it from your wounds. There is a different way, a quieter, deeper way. It begins the moment you stop asking, how can I be chosen? And instead ask, what do I truly choose? This is not arrogance. It is awakening. It is the return of your inner authority, the reclaiming of your sacred yes and your powerful no. When you remember that you are the one who chooses, your energy shifts. You are no longer available for breadcrumbs. You are no longer magnetized by what looks good but feels hollow. You begin to discern, not from fear of missing out, but from a sense of inner fullness. Choosing is not passive. It is not waiting for life to hand you what you want. It is radical responsibility. It is knowing your value so deeply that you no longer settle for what insults your spirit. You no longer chase people who cannot meet you, opportunities that cost your peace, or paths that betray your truth. You turn inward, you anchor, you listen to what your soul has been whispering all along, and when you begin to choose from that place, when your decisions are rooted not in desperation, but in self-respect, life starts to mirror that shift. People who honor you appear, doors that match your worth open, not because you chased them, but because your energy became aligned with what is true for you. There is no need to run when you become the place things are drawn to. This is the essence of sovereignty, to live as if you are the source, not the seeker, to stop performing in hopes of being noticed, and instead to stand firm in who you are and let the right things find you. It is a quiet power, a steady flame, and it begins when you stop chasing and start choosing. When you live disconnected from your inner truth, your life becomes a chase. You run after things that shimmer from a distance, affection, approval, validation, success, believing they will finally fill the aching space inside. You grasp at relationships hoping to feel chosen, seek recognition to feel seen, acquire achievements to feel enough. But the more you chase, the more you forget who you are. Each pursuit pulls you further from your center until you are no longer living your life, but one crafted by your fear of being left behind, unseen or unloved. The act of chasing is subtle. It disguises itself as ambition, as romance, as people pleasing, as perfectionism. You try harder, you give more, you twist yourself to fit into shapes that were never meant for you. You over-explain, overperform, overoffer, hoping, praying that something or someone will finally choose you. But no matter how much you give, it never feels like enough. That's because the foundation is built on self-abandonment. When you chase, you place the source of your worth in the hands of others. You believe that if they approve, you are valuable. If they stay, you are lovable. If they reward you, you are successful. But this is a dangerous illusion because it keeps you locked in dependency. forever seeking something external to confirm what you are afraid to claim within yourself. There is another path, one that does not demand you run or strive or beg. It begins with remembering that you have the power to choose, not from fear, not from scarcity, not from desperation, but from wholeness, from the stillness at the core of your being where your knowing resides. This kind of choosing is not reactionary. It is sacred. It is slow. It asks, does this align with who I am? Does this reflect what I value? Does this feel like truth in my body? Or am I betraying myself to be accepted? To stop chasing is not to stop desiring. Desire is natural. It is divine. But when your desire flows from inner emptiness, it becomes hunger without end. When it flows from self-possession, it becomes a magnetic force. You are no longer seeking to be chosen. You become the one who chooses. You no longer dilute your truth to be loved. You let love find you where your truth is fully alive. You no longer contort to be worthy. You remember you were worthy before you ever learned to hide. And the moment you begin to choose from this space, your life begins to transform. You stop trying to convince people of your value. You stop waiting for permission to be who you are. You stop giving your energy to things that drain you. Instead, you move with quiet clarity. You speak with rooted conviction. You walk away when your soul says no, even if your ego protests. You say yes only when the yes is true. In a world that rewards the chase, choosing is a rebellion. It says, I am not desperate, I am discerning. It declares, I am no longer available for what diminishes me. And this shift from seeking to knowing, is the beginning of everything. The people who see your light without needing to be convinced will come. The opportunities that resonate with your spirit will arrive, not because you hunted them down, but because you became the kind of person who no longer runs from herself. This is what it means to live as the prize. Not because you are better than others, but because you finally remembered who you've always been beneath the noise. And when you live from that place, you no longer chase, you choose. And your life becomes a mirror of that sacred choice. Everything you experience in the outer world is a reflection of the inner one. The way people treat you, the dynamics that repeat, the emotions that rise in your relationships, none of it is separate from you. The external world acts as a mirror, showing you the parts of yourself you have accepted, and more importantly, the parts you have denied. When you find yourself attracting disrespect, neglect, betrayal, or chaos, it is not because you deserve suffering. It is because some part of you still believes that suffering is familiar, maybe even necessary. Until you bring the unconscious into the light, the mirror will keep repeating the same lessons through different faces. It's not about blame, it's about awareness. If you constantly seek love from those who cannot offer it, you must ask where in yourself you have not yet offered love. If you find yourself silenced by others, ask where in yourself you have not given voice to your own truth. The mirror never lies, but it does demand courage, because it shows you not only the world's reflection, but your own. This is not easy to accept. It is far more comfortable to believe that others are the problem, that life is unfair, that circumstances are random. But the moment you stop projecting your inner wounds outward, the moment you gather all the fragments you've scattered into the world, blame, resentment, envy, you begin to reclaim your power. What you once saw as personal attacks you now see as invitations. Invitations to heal, invitations to integrate, invitations to grow. When you treat yourself with deep respect, you begin to recognize disrespect more quickly, and you stop making excuses for it. When you become emotionally available to yourself, when you stop abandoning your own feelings, you attract relationships that meet you in that same presence. When you stop betraying your needs, the world stops echoing betrayal. Everything outside you begins to reorganize in response to your inner shift. This is the secret. You do not change your life by trying to control others. You change it by changing the way you see yourself. You become the source. You stop outsourcing your worth and start embodying it. You no longer need constant reassurance because you have built a home within yourself where you feel seen, heard, and safe. And the more you honor your own soul, the more the world begins to reflect that sacred alignment back to you. There is no greater power than self-honesty. When you stand in front of the mirror of your life and dare to see not with judgment, but with truth, you step into the role of the creator, not the victim. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this revealing in me?" From that place, transformation is not only possible, it becomes inevitable. So when the world brings you conflict, pause, look inward. When it brings you love, receive it fully, but still look inward. Because whether it wounds or heals, excites or threatens, every experience is pointing you back to yourself. And when you understand this, you no longer chase answers in the outside world. You learn to trust the mirror. You learn to read its messages. You learn to meet your reflection, not with fear, but with the deep, quiet knowing that everything you've been searching for has always been within. There is a sacred difference between the one who chases light and the one who becomes it. Most people live like moths, fluttering desperately toward flickers of attention, affection, validation. They orbit around others, seeking warmth, proximity, significance. But what they fail to realize is that the moment you seek your worth outside of you, you hand your power away. You burn yourself for the illusion of light, never realizing the flame was meant to be born within. To become the flame is to stop seeking and start emanating. It is a return to the center of your being, where the fire of your truth waits to be remembered. It does not beg to be seen, it simply is. It burns with quiet certainty, with unapologetic presence. The flame is not concerned with being chosen, praised, or adored. It is concerned only with being real. Authentic, undeniably alive, the moth thinks that value is in being desired. It flutters in fear, afraid of stillness, afraid of silence, afraid of being alone. But the flame knows that desire without depth is hollow. The flame does not chase, it attracts, it does not cling, it invites, and it never dims itself to make others more comfortable. It burns regardless of who notices, regardless of who stays, because its worth is not situational, it is sovereign. When you are the flame, you do not manipulate to be needed. You do not perform to be wanted. You do not shrink to fit into someone else's story. You become the author of your own. You learn to love your own company. You learn to stand alone without feeling lonely. And from that grounded stillness, everything meant for you begins to arrive, not because you pursued it, but because your energy became undeniable. There is something unteachable about a person who knows who they are. Their presence speaks louder than their words. Their silence commands more attention than the loudest voice in the room. They don't need to chase. They draw, and not through effort, but through essence. They are the ones who have stopped betraying themselves for temporary belonging. They are the ones who have walked through fire and emerged as fire. To become the flame is to burn with purpose, not to destroy, but to illuminate. To light the path for others without losing yourself to their journey. To be warm, yet untouchable. To be seen, yet rooted in the unseen. It is to carry a quiet fire within, a knowing that you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You don't need to be the loudest, the most perfect, the most impressive. You just need to be real, to stay close to your own heat. And those who are truly meant for you, souls, not spectators, will feel that fire. Not because you lit it for them, but because they've been searching for their own. You will not burn for them. You will burn with them, not in codependence, but in communion, flame to flame, equal and whole. So let the moths fly, let them chase flashes in the dark. You are not that. You are not a flicker. You are not a reaction. You are the origin. You are the steady, sacred flame that no one gave you, and no one can take away.